Namah Shriyati-Rajaya Vivekananda-Suraye Satchit-Sukha-Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Swamine Tapaharine.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste, namaste. So, today we are going to complete the reading of the text, and then in the remaining 2 days we will do a summary. In fact, what we are going to discuss today is already the summary of the chapter as given in the text. I mentioned yesterday that Charaka follows the Supranita Sutra Bhashya Sangraha Kramam approach, which means things are explained briefly, then elaborated, and then again summarized. So Charaka-Saṁhitā is unique that at the end of the chapter we have summary verses, which we don't see in any of the other Ayurvedic classical textbooks. So Ayurveda also follows the Darshanic viewpoint, Uddesha Lakshana Pariksha. So a few of that points are important to understand before we go to examining the verses. That first define the topics that are going to be discussed. Today we have, when we start a course or something, there is this concept of, learning objectives. So what are the topics that we are going to discuss? Or we have a syllabus. So this is called Uddesha. And then each of this topic has to be defined very clearly. It's called Lakshanam. And after getting familiarized with the topic, getting a clear understanding of the definitions, then the next step is actually Pariksha, or actual investigation. So Uddesham, Lakshanam and Pariksha are 3 steps. And of the topics that are discussed, there is always a question. Does it really exist? Are we going behind something imaginary, or is it something that really has existence? So Astitvam is a very key concept here. Whatever we discuss should have a reality. It cannot be imaginary. So Astitvam, Jnayatvam. Because of that, only if Astitvam and Jnayatvam is there, Abhidheyatvam, it is to be named. Because if I name something and then I cannot understand what it is, and I cannot experience what it is because it doesn't exist, then it is a waste of our time. So everything in Ayurveda is based on this concept of Uddesha Lakshana Pariksha and Astitva, Jnayatva and Abhidheyatva. Astitva is existence. Jnayatva is not only should it exist, but it should be possible for us to know it also. Then there is a point in giving it a name. So what is there in a name? That is the question. What is there in a name? In a name is representing reality. A name is only a label. And it is a reality that we can experience. So whatever has been discussed in this chapter, from Ayurvedic point of view, they represent the description of reality that is relevant to practice Ayurveda or medicine. And all the definitions and everything has been given. So we will revisit this chapter after we conclude the summary verses, We will revisit this chapter from this framework. How do we bring this? So we have heard some new terms in Caraka-Saṁhitā, Abhidheyatva. We have heard Abhidhanas or the names. Now what? So when the teaching comes from Astitva, experience, then conceptualization, Neyatva, and then describing words and terms. When you read and study it, then it goes in the reverse direction. Abhidheyatva, first you listen to the name, then you understand the concept, and then you experience it. When you are teaching, you have the experience first, then you give a concept, and then you give a name to hold that concept. So it is like tea. If there is no tea, there is no point in having a cup. Only a cup can hold the tea. And then it has to be distributed. It should be given to that person who can then enjoy it. So this means that Indian knowledge systems are all very experiential. So with this introduction, I would like to now open up our text. So you can see here is the Tatra Shlokaha. So the whole chapter is, what all is it that we have discussed in this chapter is being summarized now. Ayurveda gamo hetu ragamasya pravartanam sutranasya abhyanujnanam ayurvedasya nirnayah. Sampurnam karanam karyam ayurveda prayojanam hedavaschaiva doshascha bheshajam sangrahena cha rasaha sapratyaya dravyas trividho dravya sangraha मूलिन्यश्च फलिन्यश्च स्नेहाश्च लवणानि च मूत्रं क्षीराणि वृक्षाश्च षड्ये क्षीरत्वगाश्रयाः कर्माणि चैषां सर्वेषां योगायोगगुणागुणाः वैद्यापवादो यत्रस्था सर्वे च भिषजां गुणाः सर्वमेतत् समाख्यातं पूर्वाध्याये महर्षिणा. So in about 140 verses, it has taken almost 2 months for that. I don't remember exactly how many classes it means. So in under, I think it may be around 40 hours or so, we have covered 140 shlokas. And I have to say that we also did not go at a very slow pace. It was fairly fast compared to the traditional way of learning, where more hours would be spent on each shloka. And by the time you complete the study of one chapter, the whole place will become familiar. The whole chapter becomes so familiar. We'll be able to recollect, recall without having any effort to memorize. Everything would have been memorized. So that kind of learning is still not possible. If so, in these 2 months, we would have made only very little progress, although the intensity would have been high. Today is the time of doing things more quickly. Speed is of ultimate importance. Everything is happening. So even in Ayurveda, it is affected. But compared to how this text may be read in even a regular college, we have made, I think, good progress. We tried to study it in fairly good detail. Did not skip any shloka or did not, quickly run through anything. Everything we went in a reasonably good discussion. So here we can see in this set of verses a summary of what all we have gone through. So the first thing that is mentioned here is Ayurveda gamo hedu ragamasya pravartanam. So how many items are mentioned here? Can anybody say the first sloka? This is a very good example of brevity. What are the things mentioned in the first verse? Anybody would like to try? Ayurvedagamo heduragamasya pravartanam. So you can, this helps us to understand what all we studied. Nobody is attempting. What are the topics described in these words? Since we have all learned
Sir,
it.
5 topics.
What is it?
5. In the first sloka, 136, 5 topics
No,
are
no,
mentioned.
I'm asking only the first pada, not the first
first part.
first half, not pada, first half of the sloka. Then ardha shloka, how many items are there?
I think 2, sir.
Huh?
Ayurveda Agamaha and Hetu Ragamaha. 2 of them.
The 3.
Pravartanam. Pravartanam.
Some are saying 3, some are saying 2. Any other opinion? Now it is a good point to make this a little bit.
Ayurveda Agamaha, Yetuhu Agamasya Pravartanam.
Yes, very good. So there are 3 things here.
Yes.
Ayurveda Agamaha, how Ayurveda descended. And Agamasya Hetuhu, what is the reason for that Agama of Ayurveda? And Agamasya Pravartanam, how did that transmission happen? So the discovery of Ayurveda, the cause for the discovery of Ayurveda, and then the propagation of Ayurveda. All the 3 things have been discussed in the beginning of this chapter. So it's a good exercise now to go back and remember. So can anybody say what did we understand by Ayurveda Agama? How did it happen? See, today I want the class to be a little bit interactive because we are coming to the end. It's a good opportunity to revise and also start bringing some direct engagement with the text instead of me just explaining. So how would you describe Ayurveda Agama very briefly based on what you have understood?
Ayurveda also is like a Veda, Agama, just like Agama. You have to teach it.
Is that what we learned? Because now you are telling an opinion. We have to follow from what we learned in the first part. What is Ayurveda Agama?
How it was handed over.
Yes.
From Indra to...
From Indra, is Indra the starting point?
No, Brahman.
Yeah.
Brahma
Brahma to Prajapati.
Brahma to Prajapati, Prajapati to Indra.
No. There's somebody else in between.
Ashwino.
Yes.
Brahma is Ayusha Veda Prajapati Majikarat. So as we know, the Sahasrasha Sotri
That is from Ashtanga Hridaya. Charaka, what is mentioned? Brahmana hi yatha proktam Ayurveda Prajapati. Jagraha nikhile nadau Ashwinau tu punastata. Ashvibhyam Bhagavans Chakra Pratipedeha Kevalam. Rishiprokto Bharadwajas Tasmad Indram Upagamat. See, in Charaka some additional descriptions are there which you don't find in Vagbhada. Brahma Smritva Aisho Vedam Prajapati Jigraha. That's all. But here Charaka says Brahmana hi yatha proktam. There was no loss in transmission. So first there is the knowledge of Ayurveda which is not created, it is there in nature itself. And at all levels of functioning of nature, the knowledge of Ayurveda works. So, see, what we learn from Ayurveda Agama is that the book to learn Ayurveda is the book of nature itself. Brahma, Prajapati, Ashwinis represent nature itself. It is the knowledge that is there in all creation. That is why it is the creation has the memory of Ayurveda. See, it's very simple to understand. Creation has the memory of Ayurveda. Otherwise, our body wouldn't exist because every cell, every component of our body remembers Ayurveda. That is why we are alive. That is why reproduction is happening. That is why life is continuing. So, at the level of Brahma, Prajapati, and Ashwini, there is lossless transmission. Complete knowledge has been preserved. Is that clear? So this is very important to understand. Ayurveda Agama means that the knowledge of Ayurveda comes from nature itself. That is the Agama. What is the critical point? The critical point is when humans discover this knowledge. For that, Indra is Indratjnane, our mind. So our mind also subconsciously has some knowledge, but we have to make Indra a Sahasraksha, 1,000 eyes. When Indra becomes a Sahasraksha, then there is a conscious cognition of this knowledge. In Prakriti, it is there, it is dormantly there. But the Agama means the knowledge of Ayurveda that is there in nature is brought into the conscious cognition of human beings. For that, we have to expand our mind through meditation. Kasyat tesham shamopaya ityuktva dhyanamasthitāh. So the Maharshis sat in meditation, and Bharadwaja was the first person to be able to expand his mind. Even Indra's expansion is not enough. Indra has only 1,000 eyes. But Brahma is as big as the universe itself. So it means that if you have to get the complete knowledge of Ayurveda, you have to grow as big as Brahma or as big as nature itself. That is why humans cannot have complete knowledge. So it is mentioned that the original knowledge of Ayurveda, which went into hundreds and hundreds of thousands of verses, was summarized for the sake of human beings. So what we have is a summary of the knowledge that is there inherent in nature. So this is Ayurveda Gamaha. Now the next thing, Ayurveda Gama Hetuhu. What is the Hetu of Ayurveda Gama? What did we understand? Can anybody say?
That is Sarva-Bhuteshu Anuprashan and suffering of all the animals.
Yes.
Sarva-Pranimaya.
Yes, this is the time when we have to recollect the slokas. Also, what you said is correct. Vigna bhuta yada rogaha pradurbhuta sharirinam tapopavasa adhyayana brahmacharya vratayusham tada bhudeshu anukrosham puraskritya maharshaya sameta punyakarmano parshve himavata shubhe. So this is the actual hetu of Agama. Vigna Buddha, when two hetus are there, the diseases started troubling people. And second, the rishis became compassionate seeing the suffering of all the creatures. So there was in nature, what this says is that in nature, the knowledge of Ayurveda is never lost. Jagraha nikhile nadau. Yatha proktam. When Brahma teaches Prajapati, nothing is lost. When Prajapati teaches Ashwinis, nothing is lost. When Ashwinis teach Indra, nothing is lost. Pradipedeha kevalam. This is not mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam. This part is mentioned only by Charaka, the idea of lossless transmission. But then, what happens? Then what happens is, when it comes to humans, there is loss, complete loss. Now itself, I think there is a lot of loss. Whatever we discussed, we are not remembering everything. Already the loss has happened. Lossless transmission means preserving in our mind every bit of the knowledge that we have acquired or heard, and not only preserving it, but amplifying it and making it bigger also. That is the real process of learning. But today's learning is full of losses. Today, in humans, the transition becomes loss with loss. So, what was done to preserve the knowledge? What was the effort taken? Because in humans, in nature, there is lossless transmission, but in humans, there is loss while in transmission. So, what was the effort taken to prevent that loss? That is Agama. Huh? Yes, I didn't hear.
Agamasa Pravartanam, sir.
Yes, what did they do?
Tantra.
Very good. So they created the Tantra. So who wrote the Tantra first?
Agnivesha.
Agnivesha.
So that is how the Agama Pravartana happened. Buddher Visheshastatra Asit Nopadeshantaram Munehe Tantrasya Karta Prathamam Agnivesho Yado Bhavat. So there was no difference in the teaching. So you can see this, that the teaching of Ayurveda, the original teaching of Ayurveda was given openly to everybody. There was no favoritism. So it means that depending on our intelligence, we can grasp. And when we have grasped the Shastra, and for humans we always need a book also, because our minds cannot grasp everything. We have to keep learning. Continuous medical education is needed for human beings. Otherwise, we will be behind. We cannot be like Ashwinis or Prajapati. Okay, I've learned it, now I know everything. No. Satadadhyanam vadaha. Naicheva hyasti sutaram ayurvedasya param tasmat shashwat abhiyogavasmin gachet. This is what Acharya has said. You have to continuously keep learning, because we are like a small cup trying to hold the full ocean. So there is no end to learning when it comes to the Pravartanam. It's a continuous process of learning. So how many Shishyas learned?
6. Agnivesha Bhelascha Jatukarna Parashara Harita Kshara Panishcha Jagrahusti Munira.
Very good. So these are the 6 disciples. So it is mentioned, Atho, see, although Agnivesha wrote the Tantra first, others also followed suit. So Agnivesha led the way, and others, Ada Veladayas Chakru, Swam Swam Tantram Kridani Cha, Sravayamasu Ratrayam Sarshi Sangham Sumedasa, Srutva Sutranamarthanam, Rishaya Punyakarmanam Yathavat Sutridamiti, Prahrishtas Tenumenire, Sarva Evastuvanstamscha Sarva Bhuta Hiteshna. So you can see the convocation ceremony was also described, is it not? The whole of nature rejoicing, becoming happy. So all this is mentioned in Ayurveda Gamo Hetu Ragamasya Pravartanam. So this is a very interesting and important point that we are discussing here. Ayurveda Gamo Hetu Ragamasya. So 3 items are here. The next half of the shloka is Sutranasya Abhyanujnanam Ayurvedasya Nirnaya. So, okay, Ayurvedasya Pravartanam was the teaching to Atreya, and then Sutranasya abhyanujnanam. After this granthas were written, they were all peer reviewed and accepted by the right. So through Sutrana alone, Ayurveda can be preserved in humans. In nature, no Sutrana is required. If humans have to learn Ayurveda, Sutrana is necessary. And that Sutrana has to be updated from time to time. And it is high time we updated Ayurveda today. As I discussed earlier, Visthareti Leshoktam, Sankshipatyati Vistaram, Samskarta Kurude Tantram, Puranam Cha Punarnavam. So the Tantra has to be made Punarnavam again. It has to be made anew again, continuously. That is how human transmission can be preserved in a robust manner. So then the definition of Ayurveda was given. Ayurvedasya nirnayaha. After explaining the origin, transmission, human transmission, the origin of Ayurveda and the human transmission, we get the idea that Ayurveda is always available. If it is going to be destroyed, it will only be destroyed. Now people are saying we have to save Ayurveda. Nobody can save Ayurveda because it's already saved. It is saved in the hard disk of nature, so it is not going to be erased. But in our memory, now from our brains, it may disappear if we are not careful. So what we need is saving ourselves from not losing the knowledge of Ayurveda. There is no need to save Ayurveda. It is never going to be lost because it is in nature. Dharma Smritva. Brahma is remembering it. Brahma knows that we will all forget it, but so Brahma remembers. And he keeps transmitting it through all the creation in nature. So after this has been explained, as humans, we need to put that effort, we need to understand, we need to share, we need to transmit. What is Ayurveda itself? Can anybody remember the definition of Ayurveda? Very good. Hitahidam sukham dukkham. Only Charaka gives such a comprehensive definition of Ayurveda. Hitahitam sukham dukkham ayustasya hitahitam manam cha tacha yatroktam Ayurveda suchyate. So Ayurveda is the knowledge of hitamayu, ahitamayu, sukhamayu, asukhamayu. Ayusho hitam ahitam cha. Ayushaha manam. Ayuscha yatra uchyate tad Ayurveda idi kathyate. So to call something as Ayurveda, it should discuss about the right and wrong ways of living, the happy and unhappy ways of living. What is good and what is bad for life? What is the span of life? Life expectancy, longevity. And what is life itself? So all these things where it is described, we call that as Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is a complete knowledge of life. It has not been defined as the cure or treatment for diseases. Ayurveda yadi anena purusho yasmad ayurvindati vetticha. That is the definition of Ayurveda. Anena purusho yasmad ayurvindati vetticha. Ayushyani anayushyani cha dravya guna karmani vedayadi atopya Ayurveda. In Charaka itself, 30th chapter, another definition is given for Ayurveda. It was told Ayus tasya hita hitam. What is the hitam and ahitam of Ayu? Ayushyani dravya guna karmani is hitam. Anayushyani dravya guna karmani is ahitam. Nattam na dati bunjita. Na naktam dati bunjita. Don't drink or take curds at night because it is anayushyam. So whatever is anayushyam has been described in Ayurveda, and whatever is ayushyam has also been described. But this is changing according to the Desha, Kala and the Purusha. According to Desha, Kala and Purusha, this changes. So accordingly, we have to decide what is good and what is bad. So all this, wherever it is mentioned, that is what is called as Ayurvedasya Nirnayaha. Sampurnam Karanam Karyam Ayurveda Prayojanam. So what is the Karanam? Anybody remembers?
Dhatu Sam.
No, there is a verse where Charaka says Ityuktam Karanam. What are those Karanas?
Navakarana Dravya.
Yes. Samanyam cha Vishesham cha Gunan Dravyani Karma cha Samavayam cha Yajñatva Tantroktam Vidhimasthita Lebhire Paramam Sharma Jivitam Chapya Nitvaram. So all the gunas, dravya, guna, karma, all those things together is called as karanam. Ityuktam karanam karyam dhatu samyam ihochyate. So the karyam is dhatu samyam. So that has been this. So you can see the structure and sequence of the whole process. And then Tantra Prayojana. What is the Prayojana or the purpose of Ayurveda? Anybody remembers?
Dhatu Samyam Kriya Chokta Tantra
It is good. You can look at the verse and it is a good time to consolidate all that we learned. So going back again, how did Ayurveda emerge? Why it emerged? How it was propagated? How it was codified? What is the definition of Ayurveda, including the definition of Ayus? Then what are the causative factors which we can use to achieve our purpose? What we should know? What are the core principles of Ayurveda that we should know? Sampurnam Karanam. Karyam Dhatu Samyam. And Prayojanam is Dhatu Samya Kriya Chokta Tantrasyasya Prayojanam. Then Hetavaschaiva Doshascha Bheshajam Sangrahena cha Rasaha Sapratya Dravyaha Trivitho Dravya Sangraha. So Hetavaschaiva Doshascha. So what does that mean? What are the Hetavaha?
Kala-Buddhi-Indriyadhana.
Yes. Yogo Mithyana Chaticha. What is that? Remaining verse. So it is told Trivitho
Vayasrayanam Vyadhinam Trivitho.
Vayasrayanam Vyadhinam Dvivitho Hetu Sangraha. So that is the Hetavaha. Then the doshas have been described. So Trivitha Hetu is very interesting, which says that our body cannot remain in balance by itself, because we need to be balanced with the external environment. So according to time and space, we have to adjust our actions in order to get health. So it's a dynamic process. I like to say that it's the concept of Namaste. Namaste, no? Namaste Ayurveda. Namaste means we are bringing our 5 fingers of both hands together, uniting them and placing it on our heart. Which means in every situation, our action should become a Namaste. Do you know the meaning of the word Namaha? It is the reverse of Manaha. If you reverse manaha, it becomes namaha. So it is killing the mind. In every step, causing the layer of our mind is a secret. When the mind is not there, our decision becomes very objective. When I mean the mind, don't become a machine. So you may ask, namaha is another name for machine or what? No. Namaha is not a machine. Namaha is a state of mind in which there is no ragadi vrittis. Ragadi vrittis are not there to disturb us. Without ragadi, when you say like this, only it becomes namaste. Today, namaste, how much money will I get is what we are asking. That is not namaste. Namaste is a perfect, pure expression of the mind. The karmendriyas and jnanendriyas are coming and saying, let me express myself in the most appropriate manner in the time and space that I am present. So I am doing a continuous namaste to the universe. My whole life is a big namaste. That is what Kala Buddhindriya Arthanam. So the time comes, the object comes, my buddhi is always trying to do the namaste. It comes from the heart, that is why we keep it here. So everybody we meet, not only, if you meet a tree also you can say namaste, there's nothing wrong. If you meet a stone also you can say namaste. It can be a mental process. Then you connect to nature. And when that harmony comes, there is health. Forgetting to do that namaste is the cause of all diseases. When the namaste doesn't happen properly, then there is disease. So that is why hetavaschaiva doshascha. So what is this bheshajam sangrahena cha? Dosha we know. Hetavaschaiva doshascha bheshajam sangrahena cha. So I just want you to read so that you can connect back to the text. Otherwise, I can just explain it. But I would very much appreciate if you can try so that you connect back to the text. Anybody? Beshajam Sangrahena, did anybody find out?
So there is a verse,
Actually, we need one
last part of the verse, it is said that Rasanang Sangraha Smritaha. It is related to Rasa.
No. Beshaja Sangraha. Beshajam Sangrahena cha. Pashamyatya aushadhai purvo daiva yukti vyapashrayehi. Manaso jnana vijnana dhairya smriti samadhibhi. That is Bheshajam Sangrahena. So it was mentioned that Shariram Sattva Chamcha Vyadhinam Ashrayo Matat Tatha Sukhanam Yogastu Sukhanam Karanam Samaha. So then what is the Sangrahena Bheshaja? Prashamyatya Aushadhai Purvo Daiva Yukti Vyapashraya. So all the Aushadha approaches are described here. Daiva Vyapashraya, Yukti Vyapashraya, as well as Sattva Vajaya. Shariro Manasam Jnana Vijnana Dhairya Smriti Samadhi. Is that clear? So how many topics all so far? Ayurveda Agama Hetuhu, Agamasya pravartanam, so that makes it 3. Sutranasya abhyanujnanam 4. Ayurvedasya nirnaya 5. Sampurnam karanam 6. Karyam 7. Ayurveda prayojanam 8. Hetavaschaiva 9. Doshascha 10. Bheshajam sangrahena 11. So far 11 items are there. We can also subclassify this into sub-items like under Ayurvedasya Nirnaya. Ayusha Nirnaya is also there. That would be an exercise, and I would like tomorrow and day after tomorrow to give such a kind of summarized skeletal. We will do an X-ray of the. So when you do an X-ray, we see the skeleton, right? So tomorrow we will do an X-ray of Caraka-Saṁhitā chapter 1, and we will look at the skeleton of the Samhita. Looking at the skeleton, you have to put the flesh. It's easier to fix all the flesh when the skeleton is there. So we will look at the skeletal framework also of the Samhita. Right. So then comes Rasaha. Rasaha Sapratyaya Dravya. Rasaha Sapratyaya Dravya Trividho Dravya Sangraha. Rasaha Sapratyaya. What is this? The rasa, how the rasa works on the doshas have been very clearly explained, isn't it? Vagbada says Tatradya Marudam Grandhi Trayastikta Kapam Kashaya Tikta Madhura Pittamanye to Kurvada. But Charaka says Swadu Ramlotha Lavana Katukas Tikta Evacha Kashayas Chedi Shatkoyam Rasanam Sangrahasprada Swadumla Lavana Vayum Kashaya Swadu Tiktagaha Jendi Pittam Shleshmanam Kashaya Kadu Tiktakaha. Hemali, what were you asking?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes.
Bheshaja Sangraha.
Yeah, Bheshaja Sangraha is Prashamyatya Aushadhai Purvo Daiva Yukti Vyapashrayi. So we have two types of diseases, Shariram Sattva Samchamcha Vyathinam Ashrayo Mata. So for diseases affecting the body, Daiva Vyapashraya and Yukti Vyapashraya is the Chikitsa. For the mind, it is Sattva, which is explained as Manaso Jnana Vijnana Dhairya Smriti Samadhi. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Rasaha Sapratyaya Dravyaha Trividho Dravya Sangraha. Rasaha Sapratyaya Dravyaha Trividho Dravya Sangraha. Pratyaya means what? Anybody knows?
It's a knowledge.
So Pratyam is Karanam. So all the Karana Dravya, along with Karana Dravyas, Karya Dravyas have all been described. Sapratyaya Dravyas, Trividho Dravya Sangraha. Anybody remembers this is a very, very important classification. Trividho Dravya Sangraha.
किंचित दोष प्रशमनम किंचित धातु प्रदूषणम स्वस्थ वृत्तो मतम किंचित वेदम द्रव्यम उच्यते.
Very good. So three types of dravyas were mentioned. Kinchit dosha prashamanam, kinchit dhatu pradushanam, swastha vrittau matam kinchit trividham dravyam uchyate. So what can these be compared with? We also discussed about it.
Poison medicine.
food, medicine, and poison. So which is medicine?
Dosho prashamanam.
Very good. And then poison is, of course, dhatu pradoshana. And swastha vrittau matam is food. But this is, of course, not a very rigid classification. The categories may cross over. Some foods may be medicine. Some medicines can also be used as food. Poison can be used as medicine, and vice versa. Medicine can also become poison. So it's a very interesting Trividho Dravya Sangraha. So then the classifications are given of dravyas. Anybody remember? Sapratyaya dravyaha Trividho Dravya Sangraha. What are the classifications? Anybody remembers?
Jangama Parthiva Naudhiva.
Yes, one classification is Jangama Utthiva Parthivam. This is based on the source, whether the dravya comes from plant, animal, or a mineral source. And anybody remembers a classification of the plants? How many types they are classified into?
फलेर वनस्पति पुष्पेर वनस्पत्या फलैरपि औषध्य फलपात्रं पतनेर विरुद्धे स्मृतः.
Yes, Pradhanair Viruddha Smrtaha. So Vanaspati and Vanaspatyaha. Vanaspati is with Phalaha. Pushpair Phalairavi Vanaspatyaha. So flowering and non-flowering plants have been distinguished by our acharyas. And then we have the herbs and then the creeping plants. So this is also very nicely described. Then Mulinyascha Phalinyascha Snehascha Lavananicha Mutram Kshirani Vrikshascha Shadyeti Kshiratvagasrayaha Karmani Jesham Sarvesham Yoga Yoga Guna Gunaha. So after coming to Dravya Sangraha, then some examples are given. So how many Mulinyas are there?
So 16.
16.
Mulinya Shodashe Gona. Phalinyo Vimshati.
19.
Yeah, Phalinyas, how many are there?
19.
19, sir.
Yes, Ekona. And then Snehaha?
4.
5 types.
4 Snehas are mentioned. That is Sarpistailam, Vasa, Majja. Out of which Snehana Muttamam, which is the best amongst all the Snehas?
Sarpis.
Snehana Muttamam Sarpihi. So we discussed also about oils, although we have discussed here only Tilatailam. We discussed the difference between coconut oil. We discussed about mustard oil, how these differences are, and all that. So to the end, the last assessment that we will have is going to be based on this summary. So the whole Samhita is going to be, not the whole Samhita, the whole chapter is going to be covered in the final self-assessment questionnaire. So we will follow these sequences. So let us count again. How many topics were you able to count?
So it was 11 till Beshaja, the same.
Yes.
Sangraha.
After that, it's important to count the topics because then you can always memorize, okay, which topic I missed. So I like to count it.
So 7 points or subjects are mentioned in the slok number 138.
Okay. Rasaha, sapratyaya dravyaha, trividho hetu sangraha 3, Mulinya, Phalinya, Snehascha, Lavananicha. I am counting only 7. Sapratyaya dravya is 1. Rasaha, sapratyaya dravyaha, Trividho dravya sangraha. So in that 3. And in the next 4, 7. So it has come to 18 topics already, right? So how many Lavanas are there?
5.
5.
5 times. Mutram, how many Mutras?
8.
8. How many Kshiras?
8.
Which Kshira is missing compared to the Mutra? And which Kshira has been added compared to Mutra? Anybody remembers?
Donkey Kshira is removed and Manusha Kshira has been added.
Yes. So the human being replaces the donkey now. Does that mean we are donkeys? So when it becomes from Mutra in the place of a donkey, in Kshira a human being has been placed. So there is some sarcasm of Charaka also. He anticipated that many humans may behave like donkeys. So when it came to milk, he thought human milk is the best representation of donkey's milk. Anyway, that's just on a lighter note. So Mutram Kshirani Vrikshascha Shadye Kshiratvagashrayah. So how many vrikshas are there? 6 are there. Utika, Tilvaka, Krishna Gandha, then
Nuhi, Arka, Asmantaka.
Duhi, Asmantaka, Arka. So out of this, which is out of Nuhi, Asmantaka and Arka, which one can be used both for Vamana and Virecha?
Arka.
Arka.
Arka, very good. So these are all the key things that we have to remember. So Mutram, Kshirani, Vrikshas. And we also remembered, Tilvaka is equated to Lodhra. Lodhra does not have Virechana karma at all, but here Tilvaka is mentioned as a Virechaka dravya. Krishna Gandha may be a type of Shigru or Moringa, we do not know. Putika is, according to Chakramani, Kantaki Karanja, but it's likely to be Puti Karanja, which is Chirabilwa, which is already known for similar properties. So all those things we have to consider. Karmani Chesham Sarvesham. So all their major karmas were also described. So what are the major karmas? For what purpose these are mentioned? That also emphasizes a big principle of Ayurvedic treatment. They are all used for, I explained very clearly that these herbs, they indicate cleansing of, anybody can remember? We have to see whether transmission is lossless or not.
So 3 areas, the brain, the heart, the lungs and the stomach.
That is not the term. The term is that you are right with the 3 areas, but what is the technical term for these 3 areas? So this is a test to see if the
Shira,
Karma.
Udara, and
No. That is Ayurvedic.
Kosh.
I explained in modern anatomical terms also. There are 3 cavities in the human body: the cranial cavity, the thoracic cavity, and then the abdominopelvic cavity. So these medicines are indicated: Shirovirechanam, to cleanse the cranial cavity; Vamana, to clear the thoracic cavity; Virechana, to clear the abdominopelvic cavity. Vasti is also for. So it is based on a clear understanding of the cavities of the body. I had mentioned this specifically. Yoga guna gunaha. Then, a lot of discussion on yuktijñas tvapyarupajñas tasam tattva viduchyate yoga masam tu yo vidya deshagalopapadidam purusham vichasatnyayo vishaguttama. All those concepts were described. So what makes Ayurvedic treatment success is not the medicine, but the right use of the medicine. And the right use of the medicine is possible only by a trained physician. Then Vaidyapavadaha does not mean that all clinicians are successful. They can make mistakes, and if a clinician prescribes a medication that is not rational, then the patient has the freedom to reject it. And then the concept of proper treatment and the real effect of medicines, differentiating it from yadrachasiti. Samyak prayogam sarvesham siddhirakhyadi karmanam siddhirakhyadi sarvaischa gunair yuktam vishajyam tadeva yuktam bhaishajyam yad arogyaya kalpade. Is it not? Saeva bhishajam shreshto rogebhyo ya pramochet. So sarvam etat samakhyadam purvadhyaya maharshina. So these are the topics that have been discussed in chapter 1. So now we have gone through an overview. Now what we need to do is to put all these pieces together and get a comprehensive understanding of the interlinkages and connections. What is the logic behind presenting these topics in this sequence? How they are all interconnected. We looked at it part by part. Now we have to see it as a whole. So that we will discuss in the remaining 2 classes. And then we will conclude this program. So namaste. That's it for today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Namaste.
स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। रामकृष्णाय ते